We are kicking off today with AEW Dynamite, as Hangman Page somehow made his feud with Swerve Strickland even more personal by burning down the childhood home of Swerve that he had recently purchased. This was a fiery climax to Dynamite that shocked fans as well as Strickland, but this act of arson is something that fans should have seen coming. As pointed out on social media, Page's current entrance video since returning to TV as a heel has an image of a burned down house that looks very similar to Swerve's former home. This isn't the only example of foreshadowing, as in promos in the past, Page has spoken of burning Swerve's world to the ground and made good on that ominous promise this week. The feud between these two is one of AEW's hottest programs, and that took a literal turn this week, but how exactly did the company pull off burning down a house? Fightful Select reports that the house used for the segment was burned down by a small crew under professional supervision, and the segment was kept secret to many on AEW's roster. In fact, several wrestlers, both in and out of AEW, congratulated Strickland on being able to purchase his childhood home, unaware of the storyline that would unfold shortly after. One wrestler told Fightful that Strickland maintained kayfabe, thanking them for their support, and these meticulous efforts ensured that Swerve is the de facto face in this story. For those speculating on whether this house was the one seen in Swerve's purchase video, Fightful confirmed that they are indeed the same property. Strickland and Page will meet it all out in a steel cage match unsanctioned by AEW, and expect the two men to rip each other apart in Illinois' Now Arena. As the global juggernaut of wrestling, WWE is no stranger to lawsuits, and this week a downright bizarre filing claims that ex-superstars were used to deliver hush money. PW Insider reports that Leland Owens' lawsuit against WWE and UFC entered the records on September 3rd in the United States District Court of the Eastern District of Washington. Owens' complaint is that he and WWE entered into a verbal agreement in Yakima Lower Valley, Washington, but that Owens never got paid for his efforts. He alleges that he gave WWE ideas during their agreement, and that he talked ideas with Bryan Danielson during the AEW World Champion's time with WWE. The filing reads, "I gave the WWE ideas and never got paid. I also told Daniel Bryan at the time what I was going to do with my earnings with said ideas, and the World Wrestling Entertainment tried to get in front of it because Vince thinks of this as competition. We have a verbal agreement in which was supposed to talk about at the time I received my payments for my ideas." Owens did not get paid for his ideas, but claims he received $10,000 in hush money that was delivered to him by Bryan and Mercedes Moné, who was Sasha Banks at the time. This alleged money was paid after Stephanie McMahon made a comment about Owens' daughter, though it's unclear what comment Stephanie is accused of making. Owens adds that he submitted ideas to WWE through his Instagram and sent suggestions to Paul Levesque, aka Triple H, as well as Moné and Danielson. Ideas Owens claims he sent include WWE forming a new company called Pi, the name of WWE's PLE Stomping Grounds, and a unique cage match idea. Owens is asking for a cease and desist order against WWE's parent company TKO Group Holdings and appropriate compensation for his alleged hard work. The suit was first filed by mail on August 30th and was officially recorded by the court on September 3rd, and WWE is yet to respond to the claims against them. It is unlikely the lawsuit will proceed, as the basis of the lawsuit simply holds no merit. Slat Rock Wrestling will keep you updated on this ongoing case as we learn more. What do you make of this new lawsuit filed against WWE with such bizarre claims? Do you feel the case will progress in court? Let us know in the comments section below. On this week's AEW Dynamite, Bryan Danielson vowed to kick Jack Perry's head in at All Out when the two meet for Danielson's AEW World Championship in Illinois. Well, Danielson clearly didn't want to wait until this weekend to get physical, as he appeared after the show went off the air to the Final Countdown theme song. This was a surprise to many, given that AEW has typically used the song, that is expensive to license, on high-profile broadcasts, but perhaps it wasn't as costly since this was off-air. Danielson thanked the fans and spoke about his history in Milwaukee, where the show had been taped, but was interrupted by QT Marshall alongside an assistant. Danielson took out the assistant and kicked his head in, a precursor to what fans may see at All Out, and thanked the fans once more to end an epic night for those at Dynamite. Over to Raw, and next week's show will serve as the season premiere of the Red Brand from Calgary, so it's fitting that one of Canada's favorite sons will be at the show. As first reported by Jackie Redmond, two-time WWE Hall of Famer Bret Hart will be at Raw in Calgary, which will be a treat for fans, especially those live at the show. Though Bret has been critical of WWE and Vince McMahon, he never joined AEW, though did make an appearance at Double or Nothing 2019 to unveil the AEW World Championship. MJF confronted Hart at the event, but this interaction didn't go any further, and with Hart's imminent return to WWE, time will tell if Raw is a precursor to more to come for him and WWE. What's your take on Bret Hart showing up to Raw next week? What do you think he'll get into in Calgary? Let us know what you think in the comments section. Later this month, Netflix's Mr. McMahon docuseries will finally release, 4 years after it was first announced, and after plenty of changes to WWE and the legacy of McMahon himself. As seen in the trailer, Vince McMahon is part of the docuseries, and one of the key questions fans have had is whether McMahon had any control over the final version of the doc. During a Q&A session on PW Insider, Mike Johnson addressed this, confirming that McMahon had no influence on the final cut, and interestingly, WWE does not have a production credit. This series will release mere months before Raw moves to Netflix next January, and fans and critics alike are eager to see how Mr. McMahon portrays the controversial trailblazer. McMahon's efforts in the world of wrestling can't be denied, but neither can the many scandals against him, making the Mr. McMahon doc a must-see for fans when it drops this month. One name who won't be watching the series though is Tony Schiavone, though his refusal to hit play on the Mr. McMahon docuseries isn't out of a sense of loyalty to AEW. On his What Happened When podcast, Schiavone expressed a dislike for Bill Simmons, who's involved in the project, and said he won't support anything Simmons produces. Schiavone explained his issues with Simmons stem from critical comments made about him during his time with WCW, leading him to avoid anything related to Simmons. It's unclear what Simmons said back then, but a 2007 article written by him claimed that Schiavone would be flipping out during every dreadful WCW pay-per-view in the mid-90s. It's entirely possible Simmons had said much more about Schiavone than that, as it was enough to keep Tony away from his work, including the popular 30 for 30 series. But what did you make of the Mr. McMahon trailer? Are you excited to watch the doc? And do you think it'll show the real side of McMahon, or take WWE's side in this? Sound off down below. Back to WWE and Survivor Series 2023 will live on in history as the night CM Punk returned to the company, but not everyone was thrilled to see the former AEW World Champion. Though the crowd in Chicago gave Punk a hero's welcome, his return came after Drew McIntyre stormed out of the ringside area following the show's War Games main event. That match saw Cody Rhodes, Seth Rollins, Jey Uso, Sami Zayn, and the returning Randy Orton defeat the Judgment Day and Drew McIntyre in an epic collision of Raw's top stars. At the time, it was reported that McIntyre was visibly upset after the match and reportedly stormed out of the arena, with footage showing him leaving immediately after the match. Speaking to Chris Van Vliet, McIntyre was asked if his exit was a seed being planted for his feud with CM Punk, and Drew said his decision to storm out wasn't to plant a seed. Instead, McIntyre said he was angry and chose to leave the arena to avoid an incident that would negatively affect everyone's mood and the hard work of the other wrestlers in the match. McIntyre mentioned that while he understood business reasons for the situation, personally he was too upset to stay, and also brought up Seth Rollins' volatile response to Punk's return. Drew said that if someone he disliked was so close to him, he wouldn't just swear and let others hold him back like in Seth's case, but he would have punched Punk in the face. The feud between Punk and McIntyre has been one of WWE's hottest angles this year, and in the interview, Drew reflected on the change of creative leadership since last year. He said, "It's all across the board with the new management coming in, new creative process, Hunter kind of leading the ship and giving a lot of people, basically everybody, but specifically those that have been there for a minute, the chance to, hey, if you got more to show, then show it. This is your chance, there's no wrong answers, go for it, and if it fails, it's on you." McIntyre is just one of several superstars who have spoken on things being better post-Vince McMahon, and this new creative will have played a part in Drew re-signing with WWE this year. But what's your view on Drew McIntyre's reasoning for rushing out of Survivor Series last year? Do you feel it was the birth of his feud with Punk? Sound off in the comments section below. After years as a babyface, whether fans liked him or not, Roman Reigns returned to WWE at SummerSlam 2020 as a heel, kicking off an exceptional run as the Tribal Chief. The run was so good that Reigns is now back to being a face as the fans acknowledge his talents, and now Reigns has shared what he prefers being on WWE TV. While speaking during Bloomberg's Power Players, Reigns was asked if he prefers being a face or a heel, and in contrast to many, said he finds it easier being a babyface. Many superstars have said in the past they find it easier to be hated, and while Reigns feels it's easier to be a face, he did say it's so much more fun to be the bad guy. Part of what made Reigns' heel run work was the efforts of Paul Heyman, who despite being written off of WWE TV months ago, appeared with Reigns at Power Players in New York. Once more, the wise man was loyal to Reigns, saying that Roman has had the most impact on social media in WWE, despite missing months of TV since WrestleMania and SummerSlam. Heyman stated that the nearest competitor in WWE to Reigns on social media is around 18% behind him, and that's despite Reigns not posting one thing since April 2024. Reigns' popularity can't be denied as fans are rallying behind him in his feud with Solo Sikoa's bloodline, and it may not be much longer before Paul Heyman stands again with his tribal chief. But what do you make of Reigns finding being a babyface easier? Do you believe he's the most impactful WWE star on social media as Heyman claims? Sound off in the comments. This week's TNA didn't just see NXT superstars, but saw the teased arrival of a former main roster talent who was released from WWE earlier this year. In a vignette, the arrival of Xia Xiao, aka Xia Li, was teased, and in the promo, Xia speaks of an awakening from which there is no turning back for her. Xiao is a talented wrestler who many feel didn't get the push she was owed in WWE, and we'll have to see how she fares once she is part of the TNA wrestling roster. Earlier this year, former TNA World Champion Rich Swann was arrested after he tried to enter an apartment near his home, claiming it was his own residence. The actual homeowner, armed with a firearm, confronted Swann, who subsequently left, and while the homeowner opted not to press charges, this wasn't the only incident that night. Shortly after, authorities received a separate report from a woman who claimed Swann followed her to her door after she asked him not to, prompting law enforcement to step in. Swann appeared in court this week after being charged with public intoxication and causing a disturbance, and opted to enter a nolo contendere plea in Florida. This means that the defendant neither admits nor denies the charges, but it serves as an alternative to pleading guilty or not guilty, allowing the case to move forward. After his plea, Swann was found guilty, fined $203, and placed on a 6-month probation, in addition to being ordered to pay $285.38 in related fees. Once these fines are paid and his probation ends, the case will be considered closed, though there's no word on when Swann, who's been suspended by TNA, will return to TV. Swann voluntarily entered substance abuse rehab after his arrest, and recently shared on social media that he received his 60-day sobriety coin in a step in the right direction for him. What are your thoughts on Rich Swann's situation and his path to sobriety? What should TNA Wrestling do with the former world champion? Share your opinions in the comments below. At All In, Ricochet made his long-awaited AEW debut to a huge reaction, but his absence from this week's Dynamite has left some fans concerned over his long-term prospects. During the Masked Man show, Ricochet was asked if he feels like a top guy entering AEW, and reflected on his personal philosophy to wrestling with the help of his love for anime. He said, "The thing about Ricochet is the climb. I'm a big anime nerd. The Gokus, he didn't start out as the guy, he started out as a little Goku. Naruto, all those guys, they became the guy because of all the story that built them up. Obviously, in some of these shows, for example Dragon Ball Z, Goku got trained by Master Roshi. Do I want to come in and immediately be Master Roshi? Not necessarily. I like the build, the climb." Ricochet also acknowledged the challenge of proving himself in every new environment, despite having repeatedly demonstrated his abilities in the past. "I've always felt that for some reason I've always had to prove myself everywhere I go, and maybe that's what it is. Maybe I just feel like I gotta prove myself again, even though I feel like I've always proved myself over and over and over." Ricochet is clearly excited for his journey in AEW, but isn't planning on rushing things, as he'd prefer to see gradual growth, allowing fans to get to know this side of him post-WWE. On last week's Dynamite, Ricochet defeated Kyle Fletcher in his singles debut, and a feud with Will Ospreay was teased, even if their segment was cut short by Ospreay's all-out enemy, Pac. What are your thoughts on Ricochet's approach to AEW? Do you think his rise in the promotion will be similar to his journey in WWE? Share your thoughts in the comments below. For months, the partnership of TNA Wrestling and WWE NXT has been a hit with fans, and it seems this partnership won't be ending anytime soon, judging by this week's Impact. On the September 5th show, Arianna Grace made her TNA debut and will serve as the official liaison between NXT and TNA, suggesting that this partnership will continue forward. Grace wasted no time in her role as she introduced Carmen Petrovic as the challenger for Jordynne Grace, but the Juggernaut retained her TNA Knockouts World Championship. This marks another successful Open Challenge win for Grace, who is set to defend her title in another Open Challenge on next week's NXT as part of WWE Week. Next week, we'll see Raw, SmackDown, and NXT all air on the USA Network, and we'll have to see who walks through the prohibited portal between WWE and NXT next. The upcoming WWE NXT will be another exciting example of cross-promotional action, and who do you want to see face Jordynne Grace next? Sound off in the comments below. Cody Rhodes news now as Post-Wrestling reports that Wesley Isold, the punk rock musician and lead singer of American Nightmare, has filed a lawsuit against Cody Rhodes, WWE, and WWE's primary merchandising partner, Fanatics. The federal court complaint, filed in California on Wednesday, claims trademark infringement, breach of contract, and intentional interference with contractual relations. Isold, who co-founded American Nightmare in 1998, holds a trademark for American Nightmare, registered in 2016, which covers music, clothing, and entertainment services. His band has been active intermittently, with tours in 2023. This dispute began in March 2019 when Cody Rhodes applied to register the trademark The American Nightmare for wrestling purposes. Isold, who already owned a similar trademark, opposed the application. The issue was reportedly settled in March 2021, permitting Rhodes to use the trademark under the condition that any American Nightmare merchandise must prominently feature Rhodes' name, likeness, or wrestling imagery in a size at least 75% larger than the text. Although Rhodes, then with AEW, complied with this condition, he continued using the trademark after rejoining WWE in 2022. As part of the settlement, Rhodes agreed to a one-time payment of $30,000 to Isold. Isold now claims that Rhodes, WWE, and Fanatics have breached this agreement. The lawsuit claims that WWE merchandise sold through Fanatics features American Nightmare text with minimal or no reference to Rhodes or wrestling imagery, leading to confusion among fans of both the band and WWE. Isold's complaint points to a specific Crown t-shirt as evidence of the infringement, which displays the American Nightmare text without the clear references to Rhodes or wrestling as illustrated in the complaint's images. This situation could negatively impact Rhodes, who sells a significant amount of merchandise. Isold's attorney received a letter from WWE on May 31st, stating that Fanatics had referred the matter to WWE, but no further communication from the defendants has been received. Isold is seeking damages of at least $150,000, with potential treble damages of up to $300,000 for federal trademark infringement, along with recovery of attorney's fees. None of the parties involved, WWE, Fanatics, Cody Rhodes' trademark attorney, or Isold's legal team, have commented on the matter. What are your thoughts on this lawsuit concerning Cody Rhodes' name? Do you think Isold has a strong chance of securing a substantial settlement? Share your opinion in the comments section. And we're ending with WWE, which soon enough will undergo a series of changes to its programming, with Raw, SmackDown, and NXT all going to new homes, but the company also has something else big in the works. WrestleVotes reports that WWE is planning a primetime special on NBC that is set to be announced in a matter of days, and will be their first primetime NBC special since August 2008. While the location is still unknown, sources suggest that tickets for the event will go on sale next Friday, with some speculation pointing to a Saturday night in December for the broadcast. The report comes after it was announced that a 5-year deal between WWE and NBCU will see SmackDown return to the USA Network, as well as the production of 4 primetime specials. With WWE as hot as it is right now, these specials could be a huge way of attracting new fans, and expect to hear much more about WWE's return to NBC primetime in the coming days.